I was halfway through my shift at the warehouse when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 3 missed calls from Dad's number. My stomach dropped before I even listened to the voicemail. His voice was weak, rattling like broken glass in his chest. "Felix, it's your old man. I'm at Mercy General. Heart attack. They saying I need surgery real soon, son." I dropped everything. Literally left my forklift running in aisle 7 and sprinted to my supervisor's office. 20 minutes later, I was racing down I-85, my hands shaking on the wheel. Dad was only 62. He'd raised me alone after Mom passed when I was 8, worked double shifts at the plant so I could go to community college. Now he was lying in some hospital bed, and I wasn't there. When I burst through those ICU doors, I barely recognized him. Tubes everywhere, monitors beeping like a countdown to something terrible. His eyes found mine, and I saw something I'd never seen before: fear. Pure, unfiltered fear. "They want $130,000 for the surgery," he whispered. "Insurance covering most, but there's $28,000 I gotta pay up front. Felix, I don't have it." The air left my lungs. $28,000. My entire savings account held $32,000, 4 years of 60-hour weeks, skipped vacations, ramen dinners, and saying no to every fun thing my friends did. But this was Dad, the man who'd sacrificed everything for me. "Don't worry," I told him, gripping his cold hand. "I got you, Pops. I got you." I was signing the payment paperwork in the hospital's financial office when I heard his voice. Well, baby brother playing hero again. Bernard. My stepbrother stood in the doorway, designer sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, his gold chain catching the fluorescent light. He'd shown up looking like he'd just walked off a yacht, not visiting his dying stepfather. We'd never been close. Dad married Bernard's mom, Hilda, when I was 12 and Bernard was 14. The marriage lasted 3 years before she left, but somehow Bernard stayed in Dad's life while barely acknowledging my existence. He'd drop by every few months, usually when he needed something: money for his business ventures, a place to crash after another failed relationship, connections for jobs he'd quit within weeks. "I'm handling it," I said, turning back to the clerk. Bernard laughed, that same condescending sound I'd heard since we were kids. "Handling it? With what? Your warehouse salary? That's cute." He didn't ask about Dad's condition. Didn't ask what the surgery entailed or what the prognosis was. Just stood there, scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing up to smirk at me like this was some kind of game. After I transferred the money, watching my account balance drop to $4,000 in one brutal instant, Bernard finally walked into Dad's room. I heard him through the door. "Hey, Pops. You looking strong, man. You gonna pull through this easy?" 15 minutes of small talk, then he was gone. "Got a business meeting," he called over his shoulder. He didn't visit again for the next 3 days while Dad recovered from surgery. But I stayed. Every single night, sleeping in that hard plastic chair, holding Dad's hand through the pain. Dad's recovery was brutal. The surgery had been successful, but the doctors said he'd need months of physical therapy and constant monitoring. I took FMLA leave from work, moved into his small house in College Park to help him. Every morning started at 6, medications, breakfast, helping him to the bathroom, then exercises the physical therapist prescribed. My back ached from lifting him, my savings dwindled buying groceries, and medical supplies insurance didn't cover. Bernard called once a week, always during times he knew we'd be busy. "Just checking in," he'd say, then talk for 3 minutes before claiming he had to go. He never offered to help with bills, never asked if we needed anything, never showed up to take Dad to appointments. But every conversation ended the same way: "Love you, Pops. You know I'm always here for you." One night, about 6 weeks post-surgery, I overheard Dad on the phone in his bedroom. I'd been bringing him his evening medication when his words stopped me cold in the hallway. "I know, Hilda. You right. Bernard's a good boy. He always been good to me. Felix is, he's responsible, but Bernard got that spark, you know? That drive." My chest tightened. Hilda. His ex-wife hadn't contacted him in 15 years, and now they were talking regularly? About Bernard? About me? I'm thinking about the future, Dad continued. Making sure everything's set up right. Bernard's got those business ideas. He could really make something of the house, the insurance money. Felix, he'll be fine. He's always been fine. I backed away slowly, medication cup trembling in my hand. What did he mean by set up right? I'd just spent my entire savings on his life. I'd put my career on hold, my relationship with my girlfriend Felicia was straining under the pressure, and he was, what? Having second thoughts about me? I gave him his medication without mentioning what I'd heard, but sleep didn't come easy that night. 3 months after the surgery, a man in an expensive suit appeared at Dad's door. Mr. Moore. I'm Richard Kemp, attorney at law. We spoke on the phone about updating your estate documents. My father nodded, glancing at me nervously. Felix, son, could you give us some privacy? Maybe run to the store, grab some milk. Something felt wrong. Dad's hands fidgeted with the blanket on his lap, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. We have milk, I said slowly. Dad, what's this about? Mr. Kemp adjusted his glasses, his expression carefully neutral. Your father is simply updating his will and power of attorney. Routine matters for someone recovering from a serious medical event. But nothing about this felt routine. Dad had never mentioned updating his will. When I didn't move, Dad's voice turned sharp, a tone I rarely heard from him. Felix, I asked you to give us some privacy. This is my business, not yours. Each word landed like a slap. I grabbed my keys and left, but I didn't go to the store. I sat in my car in the driveway, watching through the window as they talked for over an hour. My phone buzzed. Felicia, hey baby, can we talk tonight? I'm worried about us. I stared at the message, guilt washing over me. I'd cancelled 3 dates this month, forgotten her birthday because I was dealing with Dad's medication crisis, and barely had energy for conversations anymore. She deserved better than my exhausted goodnight texts at 11 p.m. I typed back, yeah, we need to talk. I'm sorry. When Mr. Kemp finally left, Dad was smiling. Actually smiling, more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. Everything okay? I asked, searching his face for clues. Everything's perfect, son, he said. Just taking care of some things. Making sure my affairs are in order. That night, I heard him on the phone again, voice animated, it's done, Hilda. Just like we discussed. 2 weeks later, Dad announced he wanted a family dinner. To celebrate my recovery, he said. Invite Felicia. I'm calling Bernard and Hilda too. My stomach dropped. Hilda. The woman who'd left him heartbroken 18 years ago. But Dad's eyes held something I couldn't quite identify. Determination mixed with something darker. Guilt, maybe? Felicia agreed to come, though her voice was hesitant. We'd barely spent time together lately, and I knew this dinner was make or break for us. She arrived looking beautiful in a yellow dress, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. We're talking after this, she whispered. Really talking, Felix. I can't keep doing this. I nodded, throat tight, knowing I might lose her because I'd given everything to save Dad. Bernard showed up an hour late, Hilda on his arm like some kind of date. She'd aged, but still carried herself with that same entitled air I remembered from my childhood. Felix, she said coolly, barely glancing at me. Still playing nurse. Bernard laughed, slapping Dad on the back a little too hard. Pops, you looking good. Told you that surgery was nothing. Strong genes, right? The dinner was torture. Dad focused all his attention on Bernard and Hilda, asking about Bernard's business ventures, which, from what I could gather, meant day trading cryptocurrencies and losing money. That boy's got vision, Dad kept saying. Real entrepreneurial spirit. Meanwhile, every time I tried to contribute to the conversation, Dad would subtly redirect back to Bernard. Felicia's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. But even that comfort felt temporary. Hilda kept shooting me these knowing looks, like she had a secret she was dying to share. When dessert came, Dad cleared his throat. I got an announcement, he said, his eyes landing everywhere except on me. I've been doing some thinking about the future, about my legacy. And I've made some important decisions about how things are going to be handled going forward. I've updated my will, Dad announced, and the room went silent. Felicia's hand tightened around mine. Now, I know this might come as a surprise to some folks, but I've decided to leave everything, the house, my life insurance, my savings, to Bernard. The words hit me like a physical blow. Everything? After what I'd sacrificed. Bernard's face broke into a massive grin. Pops, man, I don't know what to say. That's amazing. Hilda actually clapped her hands together, like Dad had just announced Christmas came early. Meanwhile, I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what I was hearing. But Dad, I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. I spent my entire savings on your surgery. $28,000. I gave up everything. And I appreciate that, son, Dad interrupted, but his tone was dismissive, like he was thanking me for holding a door open. But Bernard's got big plans. He needs capital to grow his business. He's going to turn my assets into something real, something that'll grow. You, Felix, you got your job. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. The room spun. Felicia was staring at me, horror written across her face. Mr. Moore, she said carefully, Felix has been here every single day for 4 months. He's sacrificed everything for you. How is this fair? Hilda sneered. Fair? Honey, this is about investing in potential, not rewarding basic filial duty. Felix did what any son should do. Bernard is going to do something special with this inheritance. I gave him nothing, I said, my voice stronger now, anger replacing shock. Bernard, you visited twice during Dad's hospital stay. Twice. You called once a week. What exactly did you give him that I didn't? Bernard shrugged, completely unfazed. I gave him hope, little brother. Vision. A future to believe in. You gave him, what? Nurse duties? That's not the same thing. Dad nodded along, and that's when I saw it clearly, he'd already chosen. Long before tonight. Maybe even before the surgery. This dinner wasn't a celebration. It was a performance, a way for them to rub my face in the betrayal while pretending it was reasonable. Felicia stood up abruptly. Felix, we're leaving. Now. The drive back to my apartment was silent except for Felicia's quiet crying. When we got inside, she turned to me, tears streaming down her face. I can't do this anymore. Felix, I love you, but I've watched you destroy yourself for a man who just threw you away like garbage. And you're going to go back. You're going to keep taking care of him, aren't you? I wanted to deny it, but we both knew the truth. Despite everything, he was still my father. Felicia, he's sick. He's not thinking clearly. The surgery, the medication, she cut me off with a bitter laugh. Stop. Stop making excuses for him. He knew exactly what he was doing. That wasn't confusion, Felix. That was cruelty. He invited me there to witness your humiliation. She was right. Deep down, I knew she was right. I need time, I said weakly. Time to process this, to figure out, but Felicia was already shaking her head, pulling off the promise ring I'd given her last Christmas. I've given you 4 months. I've been patient and understanding while you disappeared into that house. But I can't watch you set yourself on fire to keep someone warm who won't even acknowledge the flames. I'm done, Felix. I'm sorry, but I'm done. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like the end of everything. I stood alone in my apartment, the apartment I'd barely seen in months, and felt the full weight of what I'd lost crash over me. My savings. My relationship. My dignity. All for a father who valued me less than the stepson who'd contributed nothing. My phone buzzed. Dad, thanks for coming to dinner. Let's not make things awkward. You're still my son. This is just business. Business. He'd reduced our relationship, my sacrifice, to business. Something inside me cracked, and for the first time since Mom died, I felt truly alone. I was 28 years old with $4,000 to my name, no girlfriend, and a father who just told me I wasn't worth investing in. That night, I made a decision. No more. I stopped going to Dad's house. Stopped answering his calls when he needed rides to physical therapy or help with errands. "Felix, where you at?" his voicemails demanded. "I got an appointment at 2. You know I can't drive yet." I deleted them. For the first time in my life, I chose myself over him, and it felt both liberating and terrifying. 3 weeks into my absence, my Uncle Joseph called. Uncle Joseph was Dad's younger brother, and we'd always been close. "Felix, what's going on? Your dad's been calling me, saying you abandoned him." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Did he tell you about the will, Uncle J? About how he's leaving everything to Bernard?" The line went quiet for a long moment. "He did what now?" I told him everything. The surgery, the $28,000, the lawyer, the dinner. Uncle Joseph listened without interrupting, then finally spoke. "That boy didn't give him nothing." Nothing. Not a dime, not consistent visits, nothing. My uncle cursed, something he rarely did. "Felix, I need to tell you something about Bernard and Hilda. Something that happened years ago that your daddy made me promise never to mention." My heart started racing. "What is it?" Uncle Joseph sighed heavily. "Bernard ain't just Hilda's son. When your daddy married her, she was pregnant. Not far along, maybe 6 weeks. She told your daddy the baby was from a previous relationship, and your daddy, fool that he was, believed her. But Felix, that baby was conceived while she was already dating your daddy. She was playing him and another man at the same time." The revelation hit like a truck. "So Bernard is actually, we don't know for sure," Uncle Joseph interrupted. "Could be your daddy's biological son, could be the other man's. Hilda never would say, and your daddy never pushed for a DNA test because he was embarrassed. But here's the thing, she's been guilting him about it for years. Calling him up, saying he owes Bernard because he might be his real son, playing on his conscience." Everything suddenly made sense. The mysterious phone calls. Hilda's sudden reappearance. Dad's guilt-driven generosity toward Bernard. "Uncle J, I need proof. If I'm going to fight this, I need evidence." My uncle was quiet for a beat. "How far you willing to go?" "As far as it takes." Uncle Joseph connected me with his friend Bonnie, a private investigator who specialized in family cases. "Your uncle told me the situation," she said, sitting across from me in a coffee shop in Decatur. "I'm going to be straight with you. This is going to cost money you probably don't have, and what we find might hurt worse than what you already know." "I need the truth," I told her. "Whatever it costs." She nodded, respect flickering in her eyes. "Then let's start with Bernard. Your uncle says he's been running business ventures. Let's see how legal those ventures actually are." Over the next 3 weeks, Bonnie dug into Bernard's life, and what she found was damning. Bernard wasn't a cryptocurrency trader. He was running a small-time scam operation, convincing elderly people to invest in fake crypto portfolios and pocketing their money. He'd been sued twice, settled out of court both times using Hilda's money. He had gambling debts totaling $47,000 with some dangerous people in East Atlanta. He needed Dad's inheritance not to build a business, but to save his own neck. But the real bombshell came when Bonnie obtained copies of the correspondence between Hilda and Dad. Emails, text messages, even recorded phone calls where Hilda systematically manipulated Dad's guilt. "You owe Bernard," one email read. "You married me knowing I was pregnant, knowing he might be yours. You helped raise him for 3 years, then when I left, you abandoned him. He's struggled his whole life because you chose Felix over him." It was masterful gaslighting. Every message twisted the narrative, making Dad the villain in a story where he'd actually been the victim. And it was working. Dad's responses showed increasing guilt, increasing willingness to make things right with Bernard. The final email, sent 2 days before the surgery, made me physically sick. "If something happens to me, I need to know Bernard's taken care of. He's my real legacy. Felix is strong. He'll survive. But Bernard needs me." I sat in Bonnie's office, staring at the evidence spread across her desk, and felt my last illusions about my father shatter. This wasn't a misunderstanding or medication-induced confusion. This was a choice. A calculated, deliberate choice to betray me for a man who'd contributed nothing but manipulation and lies. What do I do with this? I asked. Bonnie smiled grimly. We use it to burn their whole plan down. I showed up at Dad's house on a Tuesday afternoon, unannounced. He opened the door looking surprised and, I noticed, healthier than he'd been in months. Felix. Where you been, boy? I've been calling. I pushed past him into the living room, dropping the folder of evidence on his coffee table. We need to talk. Now. Dad's face went pale as he recognized Bonnie's logo on the folder. What is this? What did you do? I opened it, spreading out the emails, the financial records, the proof of Bernard's scams. This is the truth, Dad. The truth about your golden child and the woman who's been manipulating you for years. He tried to dismiss it at first. This is private correspondence. You had no right, but I cut him off, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. I had every right. I spent $28,000 saving your life. I gave up my relationship, my savings, my career momentum, all for you. And you repaid me by writing me out of your will based on lies. Bernard is my son. Dad shouted, and there it was, the real truth he'd been hiding. He's my biological son, and I abandoned him when Hilda left. I owe him. You don't know that. I shot back. You never took a DNA test. You just believed Hilda's manipulation because it fed your guilt. And even if he is your son, what about me? What about the son who's been here, who's sacrificed everything? Dad's hands were shaking. You've always been fine on your own, Felix. You're strong. Independent. Bernard needs to pay off his gambling debts, I interrupted, tossing the financial records at him. His $47,000 in the hole with loan sharks, Dad. His running scams on elderly people. He doesn't want your inheritance to build a business. He wants it to save himself from broken kneecaps. The color drained from Dad's face as he read the documents. I watched the realization dawn, watched him understand how thoroughly he'd been played. No, he whispered. Hilda said, Hilda lied. She's been lying for years, playing you like a fiddle, and you fell for it because you wanted to believe you were the hero in her story instead of just another mark. Dad collapsed onto the couch, the papers slipping from his hands. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt nothing. No pity, no sympathy, no urge to comfort him. Just cold, hard emptiness where my love for him used to be. I want you to change the will back, I said, my voice eerily calm. Dad looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. Felix, son, I'm not done, I continued. You're going to change the will back, make it 50-50 between me and Bernard. And then you're going to pay me back the $28,000 I spent on your surgery. I don't have that kind of money, Dad protested weakly. I smiled without humor. Then you'll take a loan. Sell something. I don't care. You found money to update your will with a fancy lawyer. You'll find money to repay your debt to me. Or, I paused, letting the threat hang in the air. Or I take this evidence to the police. Bernard's scams are prosecutable. I can have him arrested by Friday. Dad's face went white. You wouldn't. He's your brother. He's not my brother, I said coldly. He's never been my brother. He's a con artist who manipulated your guilt, and you let him because it was easier than admitting you made a mistake marrying Hilda. But here's the thing, Dad, your mistakes don't get to destroy my life anymore. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice barely audible. What happened to you, Felix? You used to be such a caring boy. When did you become so hard? That question almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered Felicia crying in my apartment. Remembered watching my savings disappear. Remembered him telling me I'd be fine while handing everything to Bernard. You happened, Dad. You and your choices. You taught me that caring gets you betrayed. That sacrifice gets you written out of wills. That being the good son means being the forgotten son. I stood up, looking down at the man who'd raised me, and felt nothing but disappointed love. You have 48 hours to decide. Change the will and start paying me back, or I go to the police with everything I know about Bernard. Your choice. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Dad? Bernard's going to find out I have this evidence. When he does, and when he tries to run, you're going to see exactly how much he cares about you. That's when you'll understand what you traded me for, nothing. I called Bernard directly from my car, my phone on speaker. We need to talk about your gambling debts and your little elderly scam operation. Silence. Then, what the hell are you talking about? I laughed. I'm talking about how I have evidence of everything. Every fake crypto portfolio, every loan shark payment, every illegal transaction. And I'm giving Dad 48 hours to make things right, or I'm going to the police. You're bluffing, Bernard said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Why don't you ask your mother about the emails I have? The ones where she admits to manipulating Dad's guilt for years? Or should we talk about the $47,000 you owe to some very unsavory people in East Atlanta? The line went dead. 15 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls from both Hilda and Bernard. The messages were vicious. Hilda, you ungrateful little bastard. After everything we've done for your family. Bernard, you're destroying Pops. This stress could kill him. Is that what you want? I screenshot everything, adding it to my evidence file. Their panic was delicious, proof that everything Bonnie had found was accurate and damaging. Uncle Joseph called that evening. Felix, I heard from your daddy. He's torn up about this. Good, I said simply. Maybe he should have thought about that before betraying me. My uncle sighed. I'm proud of you, nephew. Your mama would be proud too. You're finally standing up for yourself. That comment hit harder than I expected, and for the first time in weeks, I felt tears prick my eyes. The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Kemp, the lawyer. Mr. Moore, your father has requested I contact you. He's agreed to your terms. He'll be changing his will to an equal split and has arranged a payment plan for the $28,000. First payment will be wired to your account by end of business today. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Please ensure everything is properly documented and filed. As I hung up, I realized this wasn't victory, it was survival. I'd had to threaten my own father with legal action just to be treated fairly. What kind of relationship could survive that? 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment in Midtown when Uncle Joseph called with news. Bernard got arrested. Not for the scams. The loan sharks found him first. He's in the hospital, beat up pretty bad. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just a distant acknowledgement that actions have consequences. Is Dad with him? I asked. Yeah, Uncle Joseph confirmed. And Hilda. They're all at Grady Hospital. I didn't go. Didn't call. Dad had made his choice, and I'd made mine. He'd been paying me back as agreed, $600 monthly, transferred silently into my account without any communication. We hadn't spoken since that confrontation. I'd blocked Hilda and Bernard after they'd showed up at my job twice, screaming about how I'd ruined their lives. Felicia had reached out a month ago. We'd met for coffee, and I'd apologized for everything. She'd listened, then told me she was dating someone new. I hope you find peace, Felix, she'd said kindly. You deserved better than what your family put you through. I'd agreed and wished her well, meaning it. Some bridges burn completely, and that's okay. My new life was smaller but mine. I'd gotten a promotion at work, started therapy to unpack the years of conditional love and manipulation, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Every day got a little easier. Every day I felt less like the person who'd been willing to sacrifice everything for someone who valued him so little. Uncle Joseph told me Dad asks about me sometimes. He regrets it, my uncle said. He knows he messed up. But regret without change is just guilt, and I wasn't interested in managing anyone's guilt anymore. I'd learned the hard lesson that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who are supposed to protect you. And sometimes, the only way to survive is to walk away. Last week, I started dating again, a woman named Simone who knows nothing about my family drama except that we don't talk. She doesn't push, doesn't judge, just accepts me as I am now. We're taking it slow, building something new on a foundation of honesty instead of obligation. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect and fairness, hit that subscribe button. Only manipulators and users won't. Drop a comment saying family isn't about blood, it's about respect if you think toxic people don't deserve access to your life just because they're related to you. If you can't stand people like Hilda and Bernard who manipulate good people for their own gain, smash that like button. Let me know, would you have done the same thing, or would you have walked away sooner? Dad still has $21,000 left to pay me. Some days I wonder if he'll actually finish, or if he'll find another excuse to choose Bernard over me. But I've realized something important. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't need his money or his approval. I needed to prove to myself that I mattered, that my sacrifice wasn't invisible, and I did that. The rest is just paperwork on a relationship that died the moment he looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't worth investing in. I'm Felix Moore, I'm 29 years old, and for the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. And honestly, that feels like freedom.